Welcome to this week's episode. If you are listening around the time that the episode went live, it is the end of 2022. Cannot believe how fast this year has gone. And I'm sure you're probably thinking something similar, but I'm really looking forward to this next year. And I hope you are too. If you're not listening to this in the real time, then definitely keep listening, because we're going to be focusing on continuing our 5-part series about planning for independent business success in the next 12 months. So even if it isn't the end of the year or beginning of the next year, that's not a problem. Even if it's July, in the middle of the year, not a problem. Because this process that I'm been sharing with you and will continue sharing with you today works really well on a 12-month rolling basis. So don't wait until the new year to make this process happen for you in your business. Dive in whatever time of year it is and start putting this process that I've been sharing with you in place so that you can make achieving your business goals inevitable. And I don't say that lightly. Truly, the ability to make achieving your business goals inevitable is something that is possible for you. You don't have to rely on other people to make your goals a reality. You don't have to set realistic or practical goals if you want to make them happen. You can break down your goals in the way that I've been laying it out for you in these last couple of episodes and today. And overall in the 5-episode series, if you implement this, it's going to give you the ability to have full control over your results. And that's something that so many of us as independent consultants, I fell into this trap myself when I first started my business. And I meet so many independent consultants who may be like you, where we feel like, you know what, I don't really have control over my business. I don't want to set a revenue goal because I can't make the client sign, my proposal. I can't make the potential client pay me the rate or the pricing that I propose. And so it feels can feel out of your control. But if you walk through this process that I'm sharing with you, you will be able to see where you can create all of the control that you need to make you own your own ability to achieve the goals, where the responsibility is fully in your court. And that's the best news, because that means that you have the ability to achieve whatever goal it is that you want to set. And so that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this goal achieving framework with you, so that you can make achieving whatever goal you want to set inevitable for you and your business. So just to recap here quickly before we dive into today's specific topic, we've been working through the 5 steps to your best 2023 or your best next 12 months, wherever you're at. Those 5 steps to planning your independent business success, your independent consulting business success. So step 1 was how to assess really effectively your last 12 months. That was a couple of episodes ago. We'll put the link to that episode in the show notes. If you haven't listened to it yet, not a problem. Stay with me here on this episode, and then you can always go back to it here after we're done. So the first step was assessing the last 12 months to really pull out the data in your business, to figure out what really is happening in your business, because so many of us operate off of assumptions. And quite frankly, those assumptions, we rarely give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. We rarely give ourselves credit. It's very common to without knowing what all the data is and the facts of your business, to think you're not as far along as you are, or fewer things are working than really are. And so that's why we want to set the foundation for this process by doing a really thorough assessment of what's happened in the last 12 months to give you that raw material, so that as you're building out your plan, which is what we're going to focus on today, building out your action plan, From those assessments, you really know what you want to continue doing. You know what you want to amplify because it's working. You know what you want to adjust because it's not quite working the way you want it to. And you know what you want to stop doing because you just either want to stop doing it or it's not working. So that was the first step of our 5 steps. The second step was to set your big goals. So last week, I walked you through the process to set your big goals and to be really clear with yourself about what you want without limiting yourself based on what you think is realistic or doable. Go set a big goal of reaching a revenue number, working half the time that you've been historically working. Go set a big goal so that you become the person ultimately who achieves that goal and is able to make it inevitable to come to reality in your business. Go set that big goal so that you have something to work toward in your business, and you're not kind of incrementally adjusting things and really it's a plateau. So that was that episode last week, setting your big goals. This week, we're going to talk about how to create your action plan to break down those big goals in a way that makes achieving them inevitable. So today is the third step of the 5-step process. And that's what we're going to focus on, creating that action plan for you to make achieving those big goals inevitable. And so what I want to share with you is essentially a framework that you're going to be able to use in order to break down your big goals into really manageable, bite-sized pieces in a way that you may do a little bit naturally, but also is something that is very repeatable and clear for you to break everything down into a plan for yourself. So with that, that's what we're going to focus on today. Before we dive into the topic, though, I want to encourage you, if you haven't done so already, go download the yearly planning process for independent consultants. It's on my website, melissalieberman.com/plan. And that's going to give you really the framework that we're working through on these 5 episodes. So it's all there for you. You don't have to worry about taking a bunch of notes from our episode. You can really download that PDF and be able to build out your entire 2023 or next 12-month plan and hit the ground running. The other thing I want to encourage you to do, if you haven't done it yet, go book a goal review call with me. So I've opened up my calendar for these 20-minute free calls where we hop on Zoom together. In those 20 minutes, we get to know each other a little bit, and then we dive into whatever questions you have, whatever feels like a stumbling block for you, or you're not sure where your blind spots might be, and you want to walk through the plan with me to see where those blind spots, where you might not have recognized those blind spots. So for whatever the goal, whatever you want to achieve, you've got 20 minutes of my time. It's a free call. I just want to, get to know you. I love meeting listeners of the podcast, and you can go book one of those calls at icgoals.review, and we'll put the link to that in the show notes as well. But it's the 2 letters IC for independent consultants. So icgoals with an s.review. Okay, that is everything, the companion resources for this episode. And now let's dive into today's focus, setting your action plan for the next 12 months. So we're going to want to grab those assessments if you've done them. If not a problem. Be sure to do it before you really, put pen to paper for this from this episode. Then get your big goal from step 2. And then we're going to use that to break down your action plan for the year so that you are able to really have a clear-cut plan on how you're going to reach those goals. So the first thing that I want to encourage you to do now that you've got those assessments and your big goal in place is to assemble your advisors. And you've heard me talk about this on the podcast before, lots of times probably, where we just want to really assemble that executive team. And that means you, all the different roles that you play, right? You want to assemble yourself, the CEO. You want to assemble the chief revenue officer responsible for sales. You want to assemble the chief marketing officer who's responsible for you getting your name out there and creating the dynamic where you're sought after and known for what you do, and creates leads for you that way, inbound leads. You want to bring together the chief operating officer who's running the business, the chief financial officer who's running helping you run the business, and ultimately the consultant who's in the field delivering the work for your clients. You want to bring all of those versions of yourself to the table as we're going through today's exercise, because there's so many different vantage points from which you want to look at the breakdown of your goals and make sure that it's a really holistic plan. So assemble that executive team, and then we're going to dive into what I call goal traceability. Goal traceability. And what goal traceability means is that you understand your yearly goal. You're very clear on it. You're able to break it down, trace it to what needs to happen on a quarterly basis to achieve that yearly goal, to bring that yearly goal to life. Then you break those quarters down into each of their 3 months, and you know exactly what needs to happen in each of those 3 months to make achieving your goals inevitable. Then within a month, you break that down into the 4 weeks or 5 weeks. So you know exactly what needs to happen at the weekly level in order to hit your monthly goals, in order to hit your quarterly goals, in order to hit your yearly goals. And then finally down to the daily level. So you know exactly each day what it is that you need to be doing so that you don't get into the position where you are allowing your client to dictate how you're spending your time, and you look up, in the middle of the quarter and haven't really done anything for your business. You haven't made any progress towards your yearly goals. When you break it down, your goal, your big goal for the next 12 months down into this traceability matrix that I'm describing to you, you don't lose sight of the goal. You don't come up for air in Q2 and realize, oh no, my pipeline is dry and my client just canceled the follow-on work that I was expecting. This ability to break down your big goal into an action plan on a yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and ultimately daily basis is what is going to make you achieving your goal inevitable. So let me give you an example of this. And I'm also a very visual person. I'm actually looking at a visual that I created as I'm describing this to you. So we'll put those in the show notes as well so that you can see what it is that I'm describing to you if you're also a visual person. So you can go to the show notes. We'll put the link to those in the podcast where you're listening to the podcast. And then you can click on those show notes and go look at this schematic. But essentially what you want to be doing is really looking at what is the yearly goal, and then how does achieving that yearly goal break down into quarters, and then focus on Q1. What do you need to do by month in order to achieve those Q1 goals? And then that gives you a perfect map for you to plan out your day and your week and ultimately your day. This is the map that helps you not lose focus on the bigger picture. This is the map that helps you to know what you need to be doing for your business so other people aren't controlling your calendar and your priorities. This is the map. I have this exact map. I've been doing this process for the last 4 years. It's a process I teach my clients. It's a map that I literally look at every single week, if not every single day, in order to make sure that I don't lose track of what it is that I told myself I wanted to accomplish. Like we talked about last week, that idea of goal amnesia is real. This traceability matrix will help you make sure that you don't get that amnesia. So let me give you an example of what this looks like so that it brings it to life for you. So let's say that you want to, one of your goals is to generate 400K in revenue in the next 12 months, working 4 days a week, 10 months out of the year. Let's say that's your goal. Just for an example, mostly I made that example so we could do some relatively easy math here. So we have that yearly goal of 400K, working 4 days a week, 10 months out of the year. And so from that, then you take the next level down in terms of traceability and say, okay, what do I need to accomplish on a quarterly basis in order to make that yearly goal inevitable? Okay, that means that I need to generate 100K per quarter, as an example, if it was going to be even. You might do 150, 150, and then 100 and leave Q4 as a buffer is another way to do it. So you know that you need to generate, we'll just use the easy math, 100K in revenue. And so on a quarterly basis, you break that down and say, okay, for Q1, I'm going to generate 100K. I am going to, this is what my schedule looks like. So you're creating your business calendar. So you're really seeing how you're going to work 4 days a week. You're really seeing how many days you're going to take, how many weeks you're going to take off that quarter, and planning ahead for those instead of just kind of flying by the seat of your pants and trying to fit in vacation. I talk to so many of you who don't even take a vacation really because you're still working while you're on vacation. So figuring out what days and weeks you're going to be taking off. So you've got that quarterly business calendar, because part of your goal is about making more money and working less, as an example. And then you're going to break that down. So you've mapped out every quarter, those 4 quarters. You have more detail in Q1 than you do in Q4, likely. The other thing you want to be doing for your quarterly plan is picking one focus area for your business. So it might be, in this example we're using today, you might say to yourself, my quarterly focus project, I want to get very good at understanding and quantifying the value of the work that I'm doing so that I can switch over to fixed fee or value-based pricing, and I'm no longer charging by the hour. That's going to enable me to work the schedule that I want to work. So that's some examples for you about what the quarterly portion of this traceability matrix will look like. And then from there, you've got those 4 quarters bucketed out. You're going to break down Q1 into the monthly plan. So what do you need to do monthly in order to make that quarterly goal inevitable? That's a great question to ask yourself. What do I need to do in January, for example, in month 1, to make hitting my quarterly goal inevitable? You might want to front load some things. You might want to have more lead generation activity going on than usual because your pipeline isn't where, the health of your pipeline isn't where you want it to be. You want to really be looking and answering that question the way I just asked it of you, so that you get some high quality answers for yourself. Again, we're getting to the headspace where you are in full control of the results in your business. And part of that headspace is asking yourself, what should I be doing in these 3 months of the quarter to make reaching my quarterly goal inevitable? So an example might be that, in the January or in the month 1, that you want to generate 400K of the 100K, or maybe even 50K. I might have said the wrong number there. Let me restate that. You may want to say to yourself, okay, in month 1 of this quarter, I'm going to generate 40K of my 100K goal, or I'm going to generate 50K of my 100K goal for the quarter. Really get clear for yourself about what that is and then commit to it. You might also say to yourself, by the end of the month, so the 4th week of the month, I'm going to be transitioned into a 4-day work week. Or I'm going to have accomplished some precursor to make that happen in the 2nd month, whatever it looks like for you. You might set a goal to do 3 proposals in that 1st month. So really breaking it down and thinking about, again, the question is, what do I need to do this month that I'm planning to make achieving my quarterly goal inevitable? And so as part of this traceability matrix, what you're going to want to do is plan out the year, as we described. That was last week's episode. What is your big goal? What are your big goals? Then from today's action plan, you're going to break them down into quarterly goals, holistic quarterly goals. And then from there, you're going to plan out the first 3 months. What do you need to be doing in those first 3 months that makes achieving your quarterly goal inevitable? And then you're going to take it one step further, or 2 steps further, actually, you're going to break it down that month 1, into your weekly goals. So take the first couple of weeks. If you're listening in the real time, take the first couple of weeks of January and plan them out. What do you need to be doing in order to make your monthly goals inevitable? It might be that you need to have 3 to 5 conversations every single week with potential clients or potential referrers or potential collaborators. What does it look like? What do you need to be doing on a weekly basis to make achieving your monthly goal inevitable? And we already know, because we've done the traceability, that what you define for your monthly goal will make hitting your quarterly goal inevitable. So that's how you want to be thinking about this. What do I need to be doing on a weekly basis that makes hitting my monthly goal inevitable? And it will be a combination of things like lead generation and whatever maps to your quarterly focus project, for example. Making sure that you're getting into that rhythm and routine so that you ultimately own your calendar and you ultimately own your priorities, and you're not letting other people do that for you. Like your clients, whatever you need to be doing for your clients. I'm not saying ignore that work, right? I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is you've got to take this really seriously if you want to achieve your goals for this year, and prioritizing it versus trying to just fit it in where you have leftover time that you aren't dedicating to a client. It can't be the leftover time. It has to be the traceability for you of how you're prioritizing your time so that ultimately you're making hitting those milestones inevitable. So ultimately the traceability looks like down to the day level. So plan out those first 7 days and say to yourself, what needs to happen in those first 7 days of the week, the first week of the month. Get that all planned out for yourself. And those map up to your weekly goals. And those weekly goals map up to your monthly goals. The monthly goals map up to the quarterly goals. And ultimately, those 4 quarterly goals map up to making your yearly goals inevitable. This is the goal traceability matrix for you. The other thing that I want to encourage, and look, this isn't rocket science. You know this stuff. You've done this before. You might not have done it to this level of detail, that I'm really encouraging you to get down to this level of detail, because this is what makes it really a no-brainer. You know exactly what needs to be done, and you don't have to argue with yourself about whether or not you're going to do it or put it off until next week. This sets forth the plan for you, so you know exactly what you need to do to focus on your business. And you don't have to be wondering, what you even need to be doing when you come up for air from whatever the client deliverable was, or all the gauntlet of meetings were. It's already mapped out for you, so you don't have to do that thinking in the moment. That's what this goal traceability matrix affords you. The ability to go do what you need to do without having to second guess it, without having to think about it in the moment, without having to use your brain that doesn't, our brain is not on our side in the moment. Our brain is definitely on the side of our goals when we're thinking ahead of time. When it's in the moment, our brain is not on our side. Our brain wants to do things that are the easiest, that are the most comfortable. And of course, and that's where you get into this trap of not focusing in on what needs to happen for your business to reach your big goals if you don't plan ahead the way that I'm describing to you. Okay. And I will tell you, it can feel very structured, this type of action plan. And I resisted it for a long time. I'm like, I don't want to, I'm an independent consultant for a reason. I want to have flexibility. I want to be able to do what I want to do. But I can tell you, having this kind of plan in place creates so much more flexibility, because you're not having to remember what it is you need to do in the moment. You're not having to realize, oh, I've got a speaking engagement next week I've got to rush to prepare for. It's already laid out for you. It creates so much more freedom and flexibility when you're building out this type of an approach, an action plan to reach your goals in advance. All right. The last thing I want to leave you with today is, as you're building out this goal traceability plan and you've got your executive team, all of those different hats on, really think about, I want to emphasize this for you. I bring it up a lot on the podcast and I want to emphasize it for you again. Really think about who you need to be in order to achieve these goals and build that into your plan as well. Who are you? The version of you who has already achieved the goal that you've set, and now it feels like just the baseline. Feels like you could do that, repeat that every year if you wanted to, really easily. What is that version of you like? What is that version of you thinking? What is that version of you feeling? How is that version of you showing up? Think about that as you've got all of those different executive team hats on, and plan from that headspace, the person who's already accomplished the goal, and build out your goal traceability matrix from that headspace versus from the place of this is really hard, but I'm going to give it a try. Do you see the difference there? If you come at this from, this is who I am. I generate 400K in revenue every year. I work 10 months of the year. I work 4 days of the week. I've got so much space, flexibility and space in my life. If you come at it from that perspective and plan your goals, plan your action plan against your goals, it's going to be such a different headspace than if you're thinking about this from what you achieved last year. Think about that. If you're coming at this from the version of you who made 200K last year, you're not going to be thinking about what are the biggest priorities that I need to focus on in the quarter. You're going to plan out those things that you've already done in the past that created the result of 200K. So make sure you put yourself in that headspace of the version of you playing all those different roles, who's already achieved this goal and is telling yourself how to go do it. All right. So that's what I've got for you today. That's how you go and put this action plan into work. And I'll remind you one more time to go get the workbook at melissalieberman.com/plan, and also to book a 2023 goal review call with me. You can do that at icgoals.review. All right. Thanks for tuning in. And next week, we are going to be talking about step 4, which is planning for obstacles. We skip this step so often, and I want to make sure that you've got the formula to plan ahead for obstacles, expect those obstacles, and quite frankly, be happy, embrace the obstacles. If you don't have the obstacles, that means that you're not planning big enough. All right. Okay, my friend, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again next week. Take care.